and I specialize in trauma healing. If you are interested in hearing about my one-on-one support sessions, you can visit my website. The link is in the description below. I'm also gratefully receiving donations there for my work that I'm putting out here for free. The purpose is to give y'all a tester of who I am, my approach, how I see the world, how I use evolutionary astrology for healing. So, without further ado, I'm going to talk with you today about this Libra new moon solar eclipse happening on October 2nd, 2024. And before I get right into it, like a classic evolutionary astrologer, I'm going to hone in on Pluto. Pluto is retrograde at the last degree of Capricorn at the time of this solar eclipse. Pluto will be stationing direct on October 11th, so very shortly after this eclipse. However, this energy, all eclipse cycles are bringing in that overall energetic imprint for the next 6 months. And so I want to equate Pluto right now. I guess another thing to say would be that whenever a planet is switching from retrograde to direct or vice versa, it is a slowed down a lot. So if we could imagine Pluto being this train that, like, it can feel like it's going really fast, right? Like Pluto is heading for Aquarius, like things are going to get more fast paced. And but this transition time that we're in, it's like this almost like slow and fast motion train at the same time, and we can be feeling like we're either going to get on or be left behind. And the beauty of the slowness of Pluto, even though it can be quite harsh sometimes because it is the symbol of evolution, and evolution is objectively harsh sometimes, we do have this opportunity over the next 6 months to actually really track our steps. Are we getting on that train towards the future? You know, and like, if so, how are we walking onto that train? What are we taking with us? It's important to be asking those questions right now because we can't take everything with us. I think this time of Pluto and Capricorn, obviously I talk about it all the time, we've realized our systems in society have crumbled. And so what are we going to take with us? What is working and what isn't? And when I look at the ruler of Pluto, Saturn, in the sign of Pisces, forming a grand trine with the rulers of our lunar nodes, Mars and Venus, at the time of this solar eclipse, I'm like, wow, this is like, you know, it can be so many different things, obviously, but when I'm speaking to, you know, these videos in the collective, it's like, all right, this could either be a moment where we are understanding the symbiotic relationship between, you know, my own emotions, Mars in Cancer, tending to that, and how that evolves and changes my relationships, Venus in Scorpio, because it's working on that deeper level, right? It's not superficial. I've tended to my emotions, and therefore there's a change in the undercurrent between me and everyone and everything that I relate to. And how this can, coming back to Saturn, mature us into better ways of relating. And it can also do the exact opposite. You know, we can also be very resistant to evolution. And with Saturn there, you know, it doesn't come served on a silver platter. It's hard work. So it can be a denial of the underbelly of the relationships. It can be a denial of one's own emotions, a suppression, a repression of one's own emotions. And what that is going to do is going to keep us in immature relating patterns and keeping us confused about what relating is, and how to do it, right? How to improve, how to evolve through it. Yeah, because it can be really painful. Saturn in Pisces speaks to like the pain that we're in, of like, whoa, like there's so much that's not working, right? And so we have a choice. We have a choice. It can be easier, it can be hard, and the level of support that we have at our disposal really does matter right now. It really does make a difference. So, I also want to speak, I guess, about this stellium in Libra that we have conjunct this new moon solar eclipse with Black Moon Lilith, who's retrograde, Mercury, and Juno. So what this next 6 months is going to be a relive or a review, most likely both, of our relationships. And how did they go? Where did they go off balance? And I think with Black Moon Lilith retrograde, there is this necessity of looking inward at one's own balance. Because if I am off balance, the relationships that I form with others are going to be toxic. And I use that word very intentionally. I can define that word so that you know where I'm coming from. It's any relationship where there is unequal give and take, right? The reciprocity is off. And so, knowing that, we know that there are many, many, many different, people out there, and so-called experts on relationships being like, watch out for this red flag, watch out for that red flag, don't date somebody who does this, or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, at the end of the day, it's about you. Are you on or off balance? And that determines how you will show up in relationships, what you will see, what you will feel as you're relating with people. That is really where the work is. If we want to get value for amount of input that we're putting into, dedicating our life to having better relationships, it's got to be about the self. And so there's somatic exercises around this, and this is one way that in a one-on-one session I would support people, is guiding somebody through that to make it an embodied healing experience. Also, Mercury. So what I want to say about Mercury's presence here is the power of communication, and how when we're relating with others, sometimes it can actually just take 15 seconds to do justice in a relationship. Sometimes it can just take 15 seconds to show up and say, hey, I'm a safe person. Sometimes it can just take 15 seconds or just a strew of words to communicate boundaries. And so I want to really encourage us all to be like paying attention to how we're using our words. And with Juno being there, obviously this is emphasizing the relationship review. It's in the sign of Libra, which is all about relationships. And so yeah, it's the nodes are all about relationships right now. This is going to be, the last eclipse with this nodal axis. So I know that I've been talking about relationships a lot, and there has been a reason, and it's because it's our evolutionary assignment right now. And communication matters. How we word things together matters. The energy that backs up those words matters. I could say to somebody, I'm a safe person, and my tone, my energy, my body language, all of that factors into whether or not that person actually finds that to be true or not, right? And so we're coming down to the wire where it's like, you know, we can't continue to be kidding one another. Like, we all have inner compasses with inner instincts, and yes, they have been wounded, Chiron. However, we're starting to find that silver lining again with that Chiron medicine of, recovering that instinctual sense of self that can really be that inner compass that can help to keep us balanced within ourselves, that can therefore help us to form more healthy relating with others. And so Libra, again, ruled by Venus. Venus is in the sign of Scorpio. So as I alluded to in my last video, this is all about the underbelly of relationships, the psychological tendrils that go so deep that most of us are not aware actually how deep they really go. And with this aspect, Venus sextile Ceres opposing Mars, there is this reparenting that I spoke about again in my last video, but the reparenting of our inner depths. And Venus is also square to Chariklo. And I think what this is really speaking to is the fact that relationships can feel very messy, and that's because they are subjective, right? When we are in relationships with others, there is this, sometimes we can't even see the forest, the trees in the forest, because it's just, it's our life is, these primary relationships. And so we get so stuck into these routines with people that it can be very difficult to have an objective viewpoint of, being able to actually assess the health of those relationships. Often it comes through, the health of our very physical body. But yeah, Chariklo retrograde in Aquarius is like saying, like, sometimes there's an objective space holder that is needed to be brought in. And this can be a counselor or, whatever. Can be really helpful to understand what's going on from a different angle that isn't so invested and, subjective and mixed in. This ruler is also, Venus is sexy quadrate Neptune, which is asking the question, I believe, of what does love teach you? I think that we are definitely in a time right now where people can very much be wondering things like, what's the point? And if love always hurts, then why should I, why should I keep on participating in it? However, there is always evolution happening. There is always that silver lining of some teachable moment happening. And I know that it's hard, and I know it's way easier said than done, but I think that this aspect is really wanting to ask that question. What does love teach you? I want to also speak about this moon being sexy quadrate to Uranus in Taurus, and how this can be quite hard on the nervous system. This having this relive or review of our past relationships. And again, why is it so hard on our nervous system? Because trauma lives in our cells. It lives in our body. It is a somatic imprint. And when past relationships have had trauma, which trauma, my definition of it, is any time the nervous system has been overwhelmed. That's it. You know, I'm not talking about you needed to have had some sort of like crazy ass breakup or like stupid car accident or something. Like, no. Trauma is any time that you felt overwhelmed. We all have trauma. So when, bringing it back to past relationships, you know, it's like that past relationship can trigger. It's like, okay, and this is exactly where I left off. That's how evolution is. This is what Jeffrey Wolf Green, the founding father of evolutionary astrology, brought through to us, is this natural phenomenon of evolution, being that we pick up exactly where we left off with everything. That's why, like, it doesn't matter if you well, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter, but like, if you don't choose to deal with blank issue for 20 years, like, that's okay. That's your prerogative. That's your choice. And there will come a time when it will be enforced upon you to deal with it, and you will have to pick up exactly where you left off. You know? And so when we're talking about relationships of the past, this is hard, because there can be a lot of discrepancy between, well, how much did that person evolve since we last spoke? How much have I evolved since we last spoke? What is this relationship going to be like now, right? Like, there's so many nuances. And so this is why I'm constantly bringing it back to the self. Taurus, self-preservation, self-sensing. If we are able to nourish our own nervous systems and find that inner sense of balance, whew, we will be able to break some cycles and some trauma loops. We will be able to complete them, I should say, not break them. We will be able to complete them because they need completion. Okay. I feel like I'm repeating a lot of what I said last time, but it's all, you know, it's all very here. Mars is squaring the nodes in the sign of Cancer, and what I want to say about this, Mars is also actually squaring Chiron, and that aspect is going to be exact on October 13th, Mars square Chiron. Might want to write that one down. Chiron is in the sign of Aries, and Mars rules Aries. And Mars is in the sign of Cancer. So the loss of authenticity has a byproduct, and this is anger. And often when we are speaking about very early trauma stemming back to childhood, a loss of authenticity was essential in order to survive. And the byproduct of that is anger. And for many, 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 if not all cases, a child is not given the safe space to express that anger about that transgression against their authenticity, right? So what happens? It gets suppressed. And this is, you know, this is not rocket science. This is like, I take something from you. What are you going to do about it? You're probably going to get angry. That would be a natural, healthy response. And so when it becomes suppressed rather than expressed, and having that, again, that trauma cycle completed, it literally becomes a toxin in our system, in our body. And one of my biggest pet peeves about the New Age movement is the phrase, let it go. Just let it go. Just forgive them. It's like, wow, really? That is so degrading and so disempowering and so oppressive to hurting and painful people. You can't just let go of a healthy emotional response that was suppressed. It's not just like a choice that you can just like wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm just gonna let this one go now. No, it is an embodied, actually changed a human's biology on a cellular level issue. There is a sequence and there is steps to letting go. And letting go and forgiveness is the last, if it ever even happens. And the necessity of that is determined by each and every individual. That is not to be determined by anyone else. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's it. Oh yeah, Jupiter is going to be stationing retrograde on October 9th as she trines Juno. So here we go. Even more of this internal reflection about relationships, understanding the fine mechanics, the big picture, being able to zoom in, zoom out, and hopefully with Chericlo there squaring Venus, we are able to find some way to objectively view all of this, so that we can move forward and build healthier relationships moving forward into this very unknown future that we are headed into. So with that, I want to thank you again for participating and listening to what I have to say. I sincerely appreciate it. And I'm wishing you all of the very best. Thank you.